Good afternoon. You're watching Businessworld Live. I'm Jes Delos Santos. Let's take a look at how the local bourse closed today, Wednesday. Okay, the index is just a few points shy of 7,300 here. The rally extending for 5 straight sessions now, with the main gauge higher by 0.4% to 7,297. That pushes gains over a 5-day period to 3.25%. Now, gains made today as COVID infection slump, posting its lowest caseload yet in 4 months on Tuesday. That's to the tune of more than 4,000 new COVID cases. And how's that affecting at least a movement of some of our local individual stocks here today? You'd see hotel operator Bloomberry is the day's best performer, leading the charge up by 7.6%. Converge likewise, rising by 6% to 32 pesos and 85 centavos a piece. Other stocks here you have lenders like Metro Bank also in the green, up 1.8%. Just quite a number of stock here in the negative territory, with Security Bank having the worst day here, down 3.1%. Now off to nickel this time, with production expected to decline by 10% than the annual average. That's due to more weather disturbances in the country and fewer vessels coming in. Global Ferronickel CEO Dante Bravo, also the president of the Philippine Nickel Industry Association, says the output may be at 25 million to 30 million dry metric tons for the year. But he still expects better revenue due to increasing demand from China and the electric vehicle industry. He adds, we need to open up more mines to meet demand. Looking at how some of our nickel producers are performing today, or at least did perform today, you have Global Ferronickel not having a good day here, down 0.3% to 2 pesos and 13 centavos a piece. However, you have Nickel Asia here on the upside, up by 1.9% to 5 pesos and 58 centavos a share. Nickel Asia, at least on this chart, represented by the yellow line. Now, from nickel to oil, you have this, of course, after pump prices were jacked up once again on Tuesday. That marks 8 straight weeks of increases here. This prompted, of course, the Energy Department to ask lawmakers to amend the oil deregulation law. They want government to have more room to intervene during prolonged oil spikes due to global demand and tight supply. But oil prices, as of today, at least looking at this chart right here, starting to drop. This after China said it's now mulling ways to temper record high coal prices, and that they will make sure coal mines will function at full capacity as Beijing eyes to ease power shortage. You have Brent so far down 0.8%, now at 84.37. Now, earlier in the program, Christina Ulang of First Metro said the recent price increases may be a boon for the share price of oil players, but inflationary pressures might actually hit margins of the non-oil sectors here. She says the government has to do something to temper the impact and the unbundling of prices here. But looking at our oil players, at least the listed ones, mixed picture here. Shell, for one, down 1.7%, represented by the top chart here, now at 23 pesos and 85 centavos a piece. Phoenix Petroleum also decreasing by 2% to 10 pesos and 88 a piece, represented by the orange line. And lastly, you have Petron among the 3 players, the only one in the green here, up by 1% to 4 pesos and 2 centavos a share. Here are other headlines we're keeping our eyes on. Energy Secretary Alfonso Cusi described as harassment the graft complaint filed against him, businessman Dennis Uy, and other officials before the ombudsman. In a statement, Cusi says the charges were politically motivated and that the complainants were merely trying to discredit the administration. The Energy Secretary also claims that the so-called concerned citizens only wanted to present themselves as patriots when they are not even residing in the country. The graft charges were filed by Balgamel de Belen Domingo, Rodel Rodis, and Filipino-American Loida Nicolas Luis. But Rodis and Luis are residing in the U.S. Cusi has also challenged the complainants to return to the Philippines, quote, where they can be within reach of the justice system. Meanwhile, the OCTA Research Group is confident that the country will have a merrier Christmas this year as the downtrend in COVID-19 infections continues. On One News's The Chiefs, OCTA founder Ranjit Rai says they're not expecting any major COVID-19 resurgence in the remaining months of 2021. Rai believes the COVID-19 situation in the country will continue to improve this fourth quarter as long as the government keeps ramping up vaccine distribution and if health standards are strictly implemented. President Duterte himself also noted in last night's talk to the people that the country will be able to surpass its vaccination targets before Christmas. Now, more than 30% of the country's target population has received full doses of the COVID-19 vaccine, and Duterte believes it's likely that at least half of the target population will be fully inoculated right before the holidays. Now, a total of 4.73 million doses of the COVID-19 vaccine procured under a World Bank loan have arrived in the Philippines. The World Bank reports that more than 8 million doses are still expected to arrive by year-end, bringing the total doses to 13 million. These shots were procured through World Bank's $500 million COVID-19 Emergency Response Project, an additional financing facility approved in March. The multilateral lender says the facility also supports the country's efforts to increase its testing and isolation capacities. Now we'll have more of the markets when Businessworld Live returns. Stay with us. You're still watching Businessworld Live here on One News. I'm Jes Delos Santos. Here are the other stories we're keeping our eyes on. You have the International Monetary Fund saying that the Philippine economy may likely experience some scarring given the depth and duration of the downturn caused by the pandemic. But the multilateral lender notes that macroeconomic policy support and reforms may help ease the pandemic's scarring effect on the local economy. The IMF says accommodative monetary settings will be important to support recovery, while fiscal support remains critical. Once sustainable recovery is underway, fiscal policy priorities should shift from income to aggregate demand support, including a renewed infrastructure push in emerging areas such as digitalization, healthcare, and climate change. That's according to the IMF Asia and Pacific Department Chief Thomas Helbling. Some of the important areas of scarring are prolonged subpar investment and employment woes, according to the IMF. Now, the IMF earlier slashed its growth forecast for the Philippines to 3.2% from an initial outlook of 5.4% for 2021. Now, digital transformation is estimated to create up to 5 trillion pesos in annual economic value for the Philippines. That's according to a report commissioned by Google Philippines. Alpha Beta founder and managing director Fraser Thompson said digital adoption is important for the Philippines to become more resilient, especially after the pandemic. However, Thompson said the Philippines is facing obstacles in achieving digital transformation, such as low digital adoption, lack of awareness, gaps in access, digital skills gap, and complex regulations. As such, he said the Philippines should enhance digital skills training and education, accelerate digital adoption and innovation, and promote digital trade opportunities. Okay, this time around, let's have a quick check at what's happening in Bitcoin here. You have, again, the digital currency still flirting with its record high here after the first U.S. Bitcoin futures-based exchange-traded fund, or ETF, has started trading, a development which market participants say is likely or is expected to further drive investment here for the digital asset. And as you can see right here, like what I mentioned earlier, it's still hovering around its record levels here. Bitcoin so far maybe in the red here, down 0.2%, but still at high levels here, now at 64,000 level. Now from Bitcoin, let's have a quick check of our local currency here, which so far is showing some weakness here against the greenback. The peso so far is at 50.806 to the greenback. And those are the biggest stories of this trading day, October 20, 2021. Catch Business World Live again tomorrow at 9:30 a.m. for the market open and 3:15 p.m. for the market close. I'm Jes Delos Santos and we are One News. Mask on, wash hands, and stay safe, Philippines.